All right, what's good, gamers? What's good? I am so sorry that I'm late to my own stream. I was getting into the nitty gritties of editing again, getting back in the swing of things, man. Dude, I have so much to edit. And sitting down for long periods of time just to sit down and edit, man. Sometimes, you know, it's tiring to be honest, but hopefully, people like the clips that I make and they help. And I was able to synthesize one of these article readings into 20 minutes of something. So if you want to catch that, it'll be out soon. I can't tell you when, but it will be out. I'm definitely going to try to be a little more diligent on the socials. Other job is definitely taking up some time. But if you're new to the stream, welcome. My name is Dr. Ryan Charles Sykes Sensei. What's good? I'm a clinical esports psychologist, and on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, or Tuesdays and Fridays, I like to host Reading with Ryan, where I get to pick an article, pick it apart, find fun little nuggies for me and the homies to get better at esports and gaming and life in general. So, as always, this is a conversation, and if you want to talk about something else, please let my ADHD bounce around with you. If this is your first time, please visit my website, psychsensei.com. There you can fill out a free consultation form, and you and I can sit down and figure out your win condition and start working towards it today, or while you're there, while you're there, please fill out a free consultation form, and you and I can sit down, figure out what's going on. Did that. There's all the resources. Please join my YouTube, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my TikTok, my Facebook, my Instagram, my LinkedIn. I guess all of it's there. I try to drop a piece of content every day. I've been slacking, but hopefully I'll get back on that cadence. But it will be there. So please go visit all the links and stuff. But today we'll be reading an article in multiple languages, mind you. Okay, that's a fat lie, not multiple languages. It's definitely in English, but it definitely was also in Spanish or Portuguese. But the cool thing is that they gave us the translation. But today we'll be reading about flow state as a performance measure in esports. And this comes from Gabriel Paz and Manuel Rios. I'm sorry, bro. That's a hard one. This was recent article, 2024. Nice. The thing that I really am wondering about this article is, are they going to talk about flow state as a not as a state of being? Of course it is. But is it something that you need to meet certain criteria to get into, or is it just a state that we'll be describing? We'll see. Okay, where is the English version? Here it is. Introduction. Esports, electronic sports, are a kind of sport characterized mainly by being facilitated by an electronic system. In practical terms, esports commonly refers to the fact of playing video games in a competitive way, professional or amateur, that are coordinated under different leagues, leaderboards, and championships, where players belong to a team or other sports organizations that are sponsored by different commercial organizations. What I like about this is that they delineated or differentiated esports, or the competitive gaming, to gaming or vibing with your friends, because I do think esports is definitely different than just playing. It's actually the competing and training and the professionalism, I would say, of it versus just the for funsies. Currently, the most played games in Latin America are Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, CS:GO, and League of Legends, LoL. This kind of video games are based on two teams competing against each other in a sequence of rounds in which players either have to kill or destroy the other team's structures. In order to achieve optimal performance in competition, players must be able to fully concentrate on the activity and to adapt to their opponents, entirely relying on their own abilities. I was trying to break down for somebody how crazy CSGO is, or CS in general. Like, I was trying to talk to them about the differences between like CS and Valorant. And the thing with CS that it's so crazy is that like because the spray isn't random, you can actually learn the spray and how to compensate for the spray in CS, like this, like when you hold down the click, like where the bullets are gonna go. And like I think unlike Valorant, I think Valorant after a while the bullets come out more random. But for CS, you can drag and like learn it, and then to know that, and then watch them spray transfer people where they can't even see the crosshairs. It's so intense. I think if people actually understood the skills involved in being good at esports, they would be more impressed, I think. But because I think people see people just sitting down doing nothing, that it's harder for them to understand the crazy things that people are doing. Counter-Strike Global Offensive is a first-person shooter video game created by Valve and Hidden Path Entertainment in 2012. That's crazy. It's only been that. Yo, Rip, what's good, man? CS is such a high skill ceiling mechanically. Other games too, but CS raw mechanical peak is very high. Bro, you know what's even crazier than that too? Is like the 17-year-old donk or 6-year-old kid. Or even crazier, what's so hard is like in CS especially, the so cringe thing is that like there's so many cheaters and bots and stuff that like even if you were to put in the hours, you know, that's something you have to wade through. But once you're able to get to, you know, the majors or a professional level, bro, the mechanics of that game is so intense. It's wild. And what I like about CS is that everyone is equal. You know, the only differentiation in roles is position and gun, maybe, because you got the op, right? But unlike Valorant, where you pick a certain role and that role has a certain type of kit, I love that in CS, everyone's equal. You need to be good at a rifle, you need to be good at the pistol, and your specialty could be the op, you know, but you have to be good at the basic guns. Everyone has to be good at the basic guns. That's what I love. The map can choose, players can choose between two teams, terrorists and anti-terrorists. The terrorist team mission is to plant the bomb in a specific part of the map, and the anti-terrorist team's mission is to deactivate the bomb. The winner of the game is a team that wins more rounds. The video game is set in a war scene. There are several game modes: competitive, partner, casual, deathmatch, armament race, demolition, duck hunter. The classic mode to play is competitive. Yeah. Okay, League of Legends is a multiplayer online battle arena video game developed by Riot in 2009. That's crazy. It's been around since 2009. In the competitive esport, 2 teams of 5 players. I did this. Is characterized by a strategy game, tower defense, and computer role-playing game with a medieval setting. To win, you have to destroy the other team's nexus. The nexus is like the core of the game and gives the players the control over his characters. There are 140 champions to choose from and 3 game modes. The most played is Summoner's Rift. All right. So what they basically did is give you kind of an outline of these 2 different game modes or 2 different games, the strategy, or at least the win conditions, what you're supposed to do. Which is good. You need the background. All right, flow state. All right, flow state, sometimes simply called flow, is a sensation which one's own skills are adequate to face the challenges encountered. That's an interesting way to share flow. I mean, they discuss the ability to accomplish the task, not the feeling of said accomplishment. Yeah. The sensations emerges during activities that are goal-directed and governed by rules, providing clear feedback on performance. Yeah, that's true though, huh? I mean, have you ever had flow state that was non-directed, that you're just like chilling and flowing? No, never. Flow state is always goal-directed, because, I mean, could you have flow just by having fun? Sure, I guess, because I guess fun is goal-directed. I don't think you can have flow Okay, basically what I think they're trying to say in this thing by saying goal directed, I think that what they're trying to say is flow needs to be purposeful. It needs to be intentional. You can't have unintentional flow. Giggity. Driven by rules, providing clear feedback on performance. I guess that's like you can tell how you're doing. This state of concentration happens to be so intense that it would decrease attention to irrelevant aspects of the environment, as well as inducing a temporal distortion during the experience. That is the feeling that time goes by faster than normal. Whoa. Okay, concentration so intense that you decrease attention to noise and inducing a temporal experience that is known as time warping. Time blindness. Interesting. I guess so. Able to face challenges statistically equals performance-focused approach versus feeling an immense focus and intensity equals psychological approach. No. Able to face challenge statistically equals performance-focused approach versus feeling an immense focus and intensity psychological approach. No. I mean, sure. Those definitions seem fine to me. Able to face challenge statistically. What does statistically mean? What do you mean? Like statistically, like mathematically, they're able to face a challenge? But I do agree with you. The feeling of immense focus is a psychological approach. I think you may be talking about like confidence in ability versus feeling it. Like, can you actually do it versus do you believe that you can do it, maybe? Because those are two different pieces of confidence, yeah? All right. I got this one. Nakamura. God. I cannot. And I'm sorry. Proposed the existence of two conditions in order to enter flow state. Oh. Yep, I got you. Correct. That's the intention. I got you, baby. Same wavelength. Yes. I love this. I think the reason I say I like this is because I do believe that flow state is not something that just happens, right? Like they highlighted, it's an intentional state to be in. I think for me, when it comes to flow and understanding it, I think it definitely is like a state of being you achieve by achieving certain criteria to get you to that state versus I just arrived. Like, and by thinking it from that way, flow is something that you can formally like create a formula or steps to get you into a higher percentage chance of getting into flow. Because I think it's that kind of, I'm equating flow and sleep more similarly. Or for example, yes, falling asleep is something you do. At the same time, there are things that you can do to make yourself fall asleep faster, to have deeper quality of sleep, to induce sleep. So for example, like having a cold, dark room, not working out before you go to sleep, limiting screens in your bed, not doing things in your bed other than sleeping. Like these are things that you can do to increase the probability and the chance of you getting to sleep versus just trying to go to sleep. In the same way, I think there are things that you can do to induce the chance of flow more greatly to have a better chance of getting into it versus trying to get into a flow state. I mean, all right, this refers to the perception of a challenge. Ooh. Oh my God. So what this means if, oh, okay, hold on. Let me read the second one. My mind's getting blown. Or the opportunity for action that require without exceeding or underusing existing skills. Okay, so. Oh, my bad. Okay. It is a feeling that one is facing challenges that have a level of difficulty appropriate to one's abilities. Thus, one has the feeling that he can control his actions, his own actions. That is, you can deal with the situation because you know how to respond to whatever comes next. Okay. Okay. So. Okay. So, it seems to me that the two conditions of flow, what they're saying, right? The first one is one, you need stress. You need stress. They're saying it differently. Right? They're saying, okay, you need to perceive. Step one is you need to perceive a challenge or opportunities for action. Like you need to have an intention, you need to have stress, you need some energy to move to do the thing, right? Then they're saying the second thing that is required. Oh, sorry. This is still the first one. Okay, so you need stress, but here's the thing about stress that you need. It needs to be something within your, what do they call that? Oh my god, what do they call that? Fuck, it's not locus of control. Proximal zone of development. That's what it is. Okay. Within proximal. Am I spelling that correctly? Holy shit. Let me Google this real fast. Gaggle it. Zone of proximal development. That is it. That is the word. And proximal is definitely within zone of proximal development. Okay. What this means, you might have seen one of these things before, right? This is the floor. Oh my god. Floor. This is the ceiling, right? So basically what this is you need the stress and the task needs to be within this zone of your abilities. The highest point of your abilities and the lowest point of your abilities. If it's outside of here, what they're saying is there's no way you're going to get into flow. The task needs to be within your abilities. If the task is outside of your abilities, you probably have too much stress that you cannot achieve it, or you don't have enough resources to do the thing that you need to do. So not only, I mean, it also kind of, they say control of actions. Bruh, I would also say, though, what they're talking about is you need a level of confidence. Like, you need to believe, you need to feel, I think, that you can do it. Because you have control, you can deal with the situation because you know how to respond to it. So I think that's where I'm getting this confidence from. All right, the second condition is to have clear goals and to have immediate feedback on the progress that is being made. The flow state is about a subjective experience of facing manageable challenges by addressing a series of goals, processing feedback about progress, and adjusting actions based on that feedback. Yo, Bon, what's good? You made it indeed, baby. I'm late, though. I was late. You are early. All right, so second condition. Clear goals. Immediate feedback. Subjective experience. Okay. Goals, feedback, adjustments. Okay. That's all it is. That's all it is. Okay, so number 2. You need, well, I guess goal. Goal, intention. Goal, intention. And then you need feedback and adjustments. Fair. I like it. I think that's important. Under these conditions, the experience unfolds seamlessly from moment to moment, and one gets a subjective state that presents intense concentration and focus on what is being done, developing a fusion between action and consciousness. Fusion. This characteristic focuses on performing tasks automatically allowing performing the activity in a more fluid way, thus avoiding the occurrence of intrusive thoughts. Well, I don't know. I mean, okay, well, I wonder if this automatically, because I wouldn't say that you're doing the thing automatically. I think you're doing it intentionally. Right? Because it's flow. I think you're doing it intentionally. But what I'm thinking is it seems automatic because everything is just connecting so well together, you know? So a series of goals slash adjustments could be within a round, getting a kill at a time and repositioning. The goal doesn't rely on a singular end game endpoint. Yes, I believe so. I think it, because I mean, from this perspective, I think they're also talking about the goals. Like there could be goals within goals, right? There could be plans within plans or things that you need to do. So of course, like if you're applying this to Valorant, absolutely. I think that you could say, okay, I'm gonna entry. I'm gonna do this one thing. I'm gonna get this kill. Okay, once I get this kill, I'm gonna reassess the situation because now instead of a 5v5, it's a 4v5. I have to use my brain a little bit more to figure out where my next angle is gonna be or what my next opponents are gonna do and keep that in my mind. Oh shoot! I just saw a flash. I saw a smoke. I saw somebody. Okay, now with that information, I need to readjust my plan of attack and what I'd be doing to take the site or retake the site or kill everybody, right? So absolutely, it doesn't have to be a singular goal at the like one big goal, but I do think it is a series of smaller goals that keep us on track to do the big one. Yes, absolutely. Because I mean, what you're talking about, Ripiv, is we're talking about perspective now and how big or small your perspective is. And depending on how big or small your attention is or your goal, like attention is going to dictate where the goals are and how big or small the goals are or where the goals are. Absolutely. Okay, according to Nakamura, and bro, I'm not going to try. During the flow state, the experience of the activity becomes intrinsically rewarding. That which makes me think, if it's intrinsically rewarding, does that mean flow state is harder if you're using extrinsic motivation? That's just a thought. I don't know if they're gonna answer that question, but that's my immediate thought. The autotelic experience refers to the intrinsic satisfaction produced by the task. This is related to self-determination theory, which postulates that a task is easier to perform when one feels satisfaction simply by doing it, without the need for any external reward. That's a wrinkle. That is a wrinkle. Intrinsic, huh? Huh. I did not know that was a factor. You know why, though? Okay, if I put this in my head. Self-determination theory is basically, can you do it or not? You determine what you want to do. Okay. Alright. Maybe this is true because I'm thinking if you are doing something for extrinsic motivation, maybe it's not as maybe because inherently extrinsic motivation is not deeper than intrinsic, right? You're doing it for some external thing, money, recognition, fame, something, you know, that may, once it slips, not be as deep as I really just want to do this, or I want to do it because I just want to, or this means something to me, you know, maybe that's why it's not as deep. So if that's true, how could you turn that intrinsic thing to be, I mean, external? So if that's true, how can you turn more extrinsic motivational things internal for you to increase the chances of you getting into flow state while you attempt to do the thing? Huh. That makes me think too. Ooh, okay. But how do we define intrinsic value, especially if external motivations can contribute to internal desire. Bro, that's a deep question, i.e. working for money, etc. Would flow state be achieved if these results in increased levels of dopamine, etc.? Or does it have to be an innate pursuit desire free of those? Damn, baby. This is why I have this stream. This is so fun. Good question. Well, I think just off the clip, right? What I'm thinking about is like, well, intrinsic, extrinsic motivational factors. Let's just think of them as fuel, as a type of gas that moves you forward. And what I think we're talking about is that both will move you. Both will get you from point A to point B. The thing I'm thinking about right now is it kind of like using like 95 unleaded gas versus like 94, like that. Is it better quality of gas that helps you get going? Because I think the thing that might be scary, which may distract you from flow state, because I think what they're really talking about in flow is your ability to maintain your attention on the thing that you want to accomplish without getting distracted by external factors like your environment or things in your environment. Why I think that external motivation may decrease the likelihood for flow is that maybe it might distract you from the thing that you're doing instead, and instead you might focus on the meaning making of the thing you're trying to get. For example, say that you make a mistake, and if you're intrinsically motivated, be like, oh, it's no big deal, like I'm stupid. You may do the negative self-talk or whatever. The game might be harder, but as soon as you say, oh man, I'm chasing after the money and I'm losing, now the money seems further away. And if the money seems further away, maybe that's going to make you act, think, respond, feel differently in your approach to get the money. Thus, you're distracted by the money instead of being focused on the process of playing the game to get the money. That's what I'm thinking about. So I don't think it's saying that either is bad or good. It just might, extrinsic motivations might just be more distracting versus I just want to do this intrinsically. So in that case, would there be a various, so in that case, there would be various extents / levels of flow state for each person, i.e. flow at Super Saiyan 5, be Super Saiyan 4, Yes, I think so. Because I think what this article is making me think about and making me chew on in my brain is it's not that flow state isn't something you have or you have not. But I do think it is a place that you're trying to get that you can do by doing certain behaviors to make it more likely that you get there. And at the same time, I think if we equate this to sleep and like falling asleep, maintaining the quality of your sleep, I would agree that the quality of sleep would be just like the quality of flow. How deep is the flow? How efficient is the flow versus a light sleep, a light flow? So absolutely, that's how I'm kind of thinking about it too. Now, it being a spectrum of flow, efficiency level of flow versus I got there or not. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So, getting the flow state is great. At the same time, how deep is that flow, baby? All right. The flow state and performance in esports. In a recent study, it was stated that to achieve optimal performance, players should be able to adapt to their opponents, communicate adequately to their teammates in cases where the game is not individual, and fully trust their abilities. Yeah. In addition, they must be able to develop themselves and their team, engage in individual skill practice, and analyze team and self-performance, and a set of varied goals, short-term and long-term. On the other hand, barriers or difficulties in execution are related to trust problems, inadequate coping strategies, past achievements and mistakes, lack of personal and team development. Yeah. Makes sense. That's interesting. Def agree there. Yeah. All right, Lopez Torres et al. Discovered that flow state occurs in a situation of optimal performance in elite athletes. Particularly, they discovered that flow values are higher in better sport performance experiences, while worse sports performance experience present lower values. You don't say. You don't say. But you know what? You need these studies. You know, you need these studies to be like, yes, that is true. I feel happier when I win, and I feel worse than when I lose. There's a study that shows you that, guaranteed. You know, you need those foundational studies. However, there is still debate about whether research results in other sports could be generalized to esports. In addition, this is reinforced by the lack of research related to esports and the performance of its players. Fair. Okay, objective of the study is to determine whether CSGO and League players are able to reach flow states while playing these games and whether their performance improves or not, depending on it. Finally, to assess if players manage to experience a more satisfying subjective experience when they are in flow state. Okay. All right, so here's one. They will enter flow state. They will enter flow state. If you go into flow state, they will do better than if they didn't. That one too. And they will be happier if they get into flow state. You know? Fair hypotheses. I would agree. I would agree. But here we said. Okay, so Spanish-speaking flyer from Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. 238 subjects, damn. And 40 league subjects. Okay, so we're... Oh, it's just a survey. Okay, so they did a survey. And then they did some in-game performance stuff. And so we had nothing in common overnight. It's very strange. But wow, okay. They're looking at KDA? I mean... Again, I don't like KDA. Personally. I understand why you look at it. But my gripe with it is that it's a nice statistical piece of information. At the same time, there's a lot of things that go into KDA that may not always be conducive to performance, you know? But like I said, I understand why they use it, but it's a grain of salt. Oh, there's a flow state scale. The fuck? Okay. Based on 9 dimensions of flow. Did you know there's 9 dimensions of flow? Okay. Balance between level ability and challenge. Merge of action and awareness. Clear goals. Clear direct feedback. Concentration on task. Sense of control. Loss of self-consciousness. Distorted sense of time. Autolectic experience. Okay. I'm going to do these things. 9 factors of flow. Very, very important. And why I'm gonna do this for me, because if I can figure out or think about how I can make points or touch points for these things, maybe I can help my players and my coaches induce flow, or even myself. Hey. Okay, each dimension was assessed by 4 questions. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Let's just skip down to results, shall we? It's, all that math stuff is definitely... Okay, here we go. You ready? You ready? Okay. This is what y'all came for, baby. All right, flow state and performance. Significant differences were found, showing a significantly better performance for those who'd entered flow state compared to those who did not in CSGO. You don't say. You know what? You know what? Okay. Similarly, in League of Legends players, the performance of those who entered flow state was higher. You know what? You need these studies. And you know what my favorite thing to do is? Guys, I read a study that said if you enter flow state, you will do better. No shit, Ryan. Bro, I got the study. I'm not pulling this out my ass. For sure. You will do better. Just like if you have more money, you will eat more food, statistically. Did you know that? You will snack more if you have more money. You will also feel better if you have more money. Alright. Oh my god. You gotta laugh at these reasons. Yeah, you just gotta laugh sometimes. Alright. The glass rank by serial correlation coefficient. Okay. Yeah, and you know what? If you get lost, here is the picture that shows you that if you reach flow state, you will perform more. There's a picture. All right. Flow state and optimal experience. As shown in figure point 5, it was observed that CSGO players' subjective experience was significantly more satisfying for those who entered flow state. Riveting. Not gonna lie. I did not know that. Did you guys know that? Now you do. Now you do. Okay, this could be observed in LoL players too, to whom their subjective experience was significantly more satisfying. Did you know that? League 2. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So, hypothesis 1 confirmed. They do go to flow. Hypothesis 2 confirmed. They do better in flow. And hypothesis 3 also confirmed. They feel better when they get into flow. All right. The aim of this study was to determine if esports players could experience the flow state while playing, if their performance improved depending on whether they entered this state, and if their experience became subjectively more satisfying when they were in flow. With this goal in mind, 2 online surveys were conducted where participants had to complete one once they finished playing their last game. In order to be able to guarantee with greater certainty that the players had entered a flow state, was not only was a flow state scale used, but also a questionnaire of optimal experience was added to the survey that allows to inquire about other characteristics of experience. The results indicate that, ready? 63.6% of players, that's more than half. Okay, calm down. Of players managed to exceed the flow state status threshold in CSGO, and 70% for LoL. Damn. I guess League of Legends requires more concentration than CSGO. I wonder how the results would turn out if you found the variables of flow state and then accounted for a group experience in flow. But while they were losing the game, oh bro, CS down 5-10, but clutching around. And if this factored into teammates' increased levels of flow due to any biological resurgence or psychological variables. Okay, now Rift, if you're playing a dangerous game, you're playing a very dangerous game because, bruh, okay, let's be real. Although 70% and 63.6% of players were able to reach flow, like, I think maybe the experiment might be, how can we get each individual person to flow more consistently? Then, once we're able to get people to flow more consistently, then the next study was how to induce group flow. I guess maybe in the first study is, does group flow exist? It does. But does it exist? Then, if it does exist, what are the factors that indicate or make it more possible for a group of people to get into the same flow state? Then after that, when you throw in this study of the factors that decrease the opportunities or chances of a group reaching flow. So, yes, and we would need to write 4 more studies. That's an excellent study. That'd be so cool. That would be very, very cool. I'd like that. Because I think the thing that you're also exactly, how do we influence group flow via individual performance variables with a study like this for background would be fascinating. Absolutely. I think the other thing that would be fascinating, that I think would be more foundational to group flow, would be looking at the interpersonal factors of the team and interpersonal strength within the team to induce group flow. Because my hypothesis would be that a major factor that influences group flow is trust and safety. Because if I don't feel trust, if I don't feel safety, how can I feel confident that not only I can do it, but we can do it together? You know, because apparently that's a really big part of flow. The first criterion is the task within your proximal zone of development? Do you have the tools and resources and confidence to do it? And after that, it's the goal-directed behavior. So that's what I'm thinking. All right, this phenomenon may be what some authors have proposed as microflow. Bro, I think you're onto something, because if something can be microflow, that's micro small, right? Flow state, so the state is little, versus, I guess, macro or big state, you know? So, rip it. I think we're on the same thought train. Choo-choo. Okay, this would simply imply that they experience flow states with a certain frequency or depth. Bro, look, you wrote this article, dog. That's it. But they do not experience the different flow dimensions in the same way or reach the same subjective in the same way or reach the same subjective state. Yes. Hey, let's go, bro. Look at that. Look at us big braining. Wow. Okay, I learned something new about flow. I was more of a black and white flow state kind of guy. You go into it or not. I never thought of the levels and depth of flow that could be different for each person. So yeah, I guess you could all be flowing, but if it's not deep, if it's not the same, maybe it's not as great. Oh, look at you, man. Look at you. Okay. One of the dimensions most frequently appeared in the participants was the autotelic experience, in line with Jackson and Good Luck, which considers this dimension as one of the most associated with best performances. Autolectic. I think that's the one where you just do. Or is that of yourself? Results obtained in the LUL study showed that the autolectic experience positively correlates with the rest of the dimensions, mainly with the concentration on task, with the exception of the distorted sense of time. I think auto is that your intrinsic, I think. Another one of the most frequent experience dimensions was clear goals. Okay, right here. Autolectic experience. Autotelic, excuse me. Autotelic. And then to clear goals. The third most experienced dimension was concentration on task. Okay. Which may imply that focused attention helps the player to experience positive states. Alright, fair. Finally, the fourth dimension, but wait, there's more. That was most experienced was balanced between ability level and challenges. Interesting. So are you able to do it? Autotelic describes something like an activity or a person that is inherently purposeful or has a purpose in itself rather than being driven by external rewards or goals. Google, not me. do wish this study would define some of the stuff a little more. I agree, but hey, we were giving him pass because this was written in Spanish and then translated, right? Because look, bro. Look. This was the original, Estado de flow es una sensación. It's written in Spanish, man. So I'm giving them a pass on the numbers and the formats because, bro, we're just happy that we're reading. You know what I mean? But yes, autotelic. So it's definitely the intrinsic motivation. Right there. Autotelic. But hey, we learned a new word today, right? I missed that part. That makes more sense. Didn't realize it was translated, bro. Me too. I was like, I'm trying my best. But yeah, this is good information. I'm glad they were able to translate this. Great article so far. This would mean that the ranking systems in these esports actually allow players to find challenges that are suitable for his abilities. Okay. On the other hand, we found that the least experienced dimension, both in CSGO and League of Legends, was the distorted sense of time. I guess that doesn't. I mean, how do you train distorted sense of time? You know, I think that was an experience, but I'm thinking about how to train it. This could be explained by the fact that players are constantly aware of time passing, since it allows them to organize their actions and teamwork during the match. I guess that's right. It'd be kind of shit if you're losing track of time and you're realizing that you need to do stuff in the game with time, right? Unlike other sports, in esports, the situational conditions or the map in which it is played usually changes at certain moments of the game. So having a clock or in-game time becomes a tool that allows to improve performance. Yeah. It should be noted that although this dimension has been the least experienced, this does not interfere with the development of the rest of the flow dimensions or with achieving better performance. As evidence, the dimension of distorted sense of time was the one that least correlated with the rest of the dimensions. These results are congruent with those obtained by this person, who found that marathon athletes experienced at a lower level the flow dimension that corresponds to the dimension of the sense of time. No, they're disassociating while they're marathon running. They need oxygen to their brain. They are dying. No, that's not flow. That's a near-death experience. The loss of self-awareness and the merging of actions and awareness. No, they poop their pants. That's not flow. I venture to say in CS they actually have the opposite effect, time distortion. Honestly, yeah, maybe. But maybe it's a macro state, you know, versus like the timing of a diffusion of a bomb. Similar results were previously obtained in other research on the performance of elite athletes in flow state. In the mentioned study, researchers made recordings and self-reports of athletes in order to identify phases that were linked to the subscales that make up the flow state. The subscales of loss of self-awareness and distortion of the sense of time were the ones with the fewest reports. This could suggest that the distortion of the sense of time is not directly linked to the experience of flow state, or that at least it is not absolutely necessary to experience the state. Yeah, I'd say the second one. It's not absolutely necessary for you to experience the loss of time to be in flow. Period. Okay. The model values obtained, blah, 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 for CS players can be interpreted as acceptable considering the parameters proposed by Brown. However, these metrics for low players were below the threshold of acceptability. Nevertheless, this makes sense considering that the conformity factor analysis for League of Legends players was computed is 40 participants, while a reasonable sample size to conduct such type of analysis would be 150. Yeah. So harder to generalize, you're saying, League, because not enough participants. Regarding the performance of the participants, it was found that those who managed to enter the flow state in their last game performed better than those who did not manage to enter flow state. Right. It's important to know. The dimensions that best correlate with good performance were balance between ability level and challenge and clear goals. The results are consistent with Ferdinand's Macias states that flow is associated with sporting success and the ideal states to compete. When they are in flow state, athletes manage to completely abstract themselves in their execution to the point of experience their own sensations, perceptions, and actions as an extraordinarily positive way, performing their best possible performance in an apparently automatic way. Consequently, the flow characteristics favor high performance and therefore directly predict the quality of execution. Okay. Okay. The results obtained in this present present research regarding the optimal experience of the participants are consistent with the development of the flow state and support the results obtained by the FSS scale. According to some authors, it can be questionable to assure that the flow state has been reached simply by achieving a certain score in a survey without directly evaluating the participants through interviews and other techniques. However, in this study, it was found that the players who entered flow during their last game did indeed experience a more satisfying subjective experience. Take that shit to the bank. If you're in flow, you're probably enjoying yourself. So, two things about flow. One, you're probably enjoying it. And two, it needs to be intentional, bro. These findings are consistent with that described by Mercado, who states that perception of achievement would affect the positive emotional experience, developing an emotional state of gratification, which in turn would affect cognitive activation. Finally, cognitive activation, characterized by a high concentration on the task and focus and sustained attention, would affect the achievement experience, thus forming a feedback loop between the variables that explain the optimal experience of flow. Consequently, both this feeling of gratification during the performance of the task and the adequate cognitive activation would imply an ideal performance. So you're happy and you can do it. Yay, you're fun. Yeah. However, it would be worth raising up the possibility that the results referring to the optimal experience are a consequence of the good performance in the game and not its cause. Fair. Since it would be expected that those players who did well would have been more inclined to score higher as indicators of subjectively more satisfying experience, but that would be strictly involved with development of flow. So now we're talking chicken and egg. Is someone happy because they're in flow, or are they happy because they're winning and now they're in flow too? You tell me, bro. Okay, in more recent studies, many studies have investigated psychological factors such as flow state and competitive anxiety in high performance sports. However, this is the first study that works with a population that is exclusively dedicated to esports. This present study is one of the first to provide evidence that it is possible to experience flow state when playing electronic sports. Did you know? This is a foundational study we just read, boys. In this regard, video games currently have the ability to offer the player useful and accurate information about their performance in the game, and the objectives to win the game were also clearly defined. This is consistent with what Nakamura and Blah said, that clarity of objective and accurate and immediate feedback are essential conditions to enter flow. Dude, my dog is snoring. Can you see his face? So cute, right? In the same way, esports today have developed a great control configuration for their player. This means that players have certain facilities that allow them to improve their mastery of the game. For example, players are allowed to assign keyboard keys to their liking, and even when you have the necessary peripheral accessories, mouse, keyboard, etc., it's possible to assign some specific actions to other keys in order to accelerate certain movements within the game. This is closely related to what Jackson mentions, that one of the facilitators of the flow state is the optimal environment and situational conditions. In this sense, it could be thought that the characteristics of soundtrack, in-game graphics, and the convenience of the controls are linked to these facilitators for the development of flow in esports players. Okay, fair. So we're talking about environmental factors now. Regarding practical applicability of the results obtained, it can be said that in order to improve players' experience and their performance in-game, game developers should pay special attention to the in-game communication with the player, informing in a simple and direct way the evaluation of a player's performance and establishing clear and realistic goals that facilitate focusing on their task. Likewise, it is important that video games have classifications by ranking for different leagues that allow players to place themselves in adequate difficulty levels for their abilities, allowing them to avoid boredom by winning too easily or the frustration of losing. In-game communication with the player. I mean, at the same time, what benefits do Riot have to put these things into their game? None. Because in fact, losing and being out of flow makes people play the game more. You know? But I like this article. You know, this was a really interesting article. I wouldn't say that the simplicity of the article and what they found made it bad. You know, I think it's good to read a foundation article that applies flow state to, you know, gaming and esports, and it being the first one. I think that's really cool. I think the things that I'm taking away from this is these factors to get into flow. You know, these factors are really, really important. You need stress to get into flow, because I think that already direct. I'm going to use this article as an example of you need stress, because so many players, so many students, so many people think stress is bad or it should be avoided, or when I experience it, it's really not great for my performance. At the same time, what this article highlights is that you do need the stress. You do need the stress. At the same time, the task and your ability to manage your stress does need to be within this zone of proximal development, so you know how to handle it. If it's too hard, or if it's too easy, if it's not engaging, if it's too boring, you're not going to be within this zone to even get into flow. Because that dictates your confidence and your ability, your perception, if you can do it. And of course, once you have all these things, the belief, the task is within your zone. The next part is, do you have a goal? Do you have an intentional goal that you're trying to achieve? Do you have feedback in your pursuit of that goal? And can you make appropriate adjustments to achieve your goal? Very good article overall. Provides a great and easily understandable explanation for the factors as well. Absolutely. Managed stress equals good. Managed stress equals good, unhinged, chaotic stress equals bad. Noted. Absolutely. At the same time, making sure that you have the resources to do the thing that you want to do. I like it. Yeah, this is really good. This is really good. What I also like about this is that if you can meet these criteria for flow, it allows you to A, get to flow. I'm also thinking B, it allows you to increase the quality of your flow, maybe even the length of your flow state. So that's really cool. I learned that flow isn't just a state of being, but there's also levels to the game, literally. Which makes sense. And there's different things that can affect the quality of your flow or your experience of flow. I also do think it's really cool that they said, hey, these are some factors that people do experience. At the same time, if you don't experience the loss of time or the time warp, per se, of being hyper-focused, you're still fine, that you're still in flow. Yeah, I do think it's really being intentional. And that's another thing about flow. It's an intentional process that you allow yourself to get into. What's the other thing with that? Oh, not only is it an intentional process, but it's either a byproduct of flow or a direct result of flow is that you're gonna have a good time. So I think another thing with this is maybe it's not about overemphasizing your ability to be there. I think at the same time, it's also remembering that when you are in flow, that you enjoy that state and you don't try to, study it. You don't try to be conscious of it. You just be it, enjoy it, do it. Because the other thing they didn't say is how to get out of flow. And the first way to get out, or number one way to get out of flow, is to identify and be conscious that you're doing it. Because what this article also did say is that even though the process of getting into flow state is a very intentional one, maintaining it isn't. It's almost you're in it. It's an automatic state of being that you are just experiencing things. You're thinking freely. You're connecting things freely together, and it's almost as if you see it, you're able to perform it. But once you become aware of it, once you become more conscious of, I'm trying to do the flow when you're in it, it's going to take you out. So if you're in it, enjoy it, be it, do it, and to get into it. Now that's an sense. Whew. All right, that was fun. Not gonna lie, I was a little concerned. I was like, no, what am I gonna talk about? What am I gonna read tonight? Because I've just been editing all day. But that was, actually a lot more fruitful than I thought. I'm not saying that I didn't think the article was gonna be not unfruitful. That's not what I said. I'm pleasantly surprised. All right. So if you want to figure out your special recipe to get into flow, fill out a free consultation form on my website, psychsensei.com. And while you're there, you might as well find all the other resources from my LinkedIn, my TikTok, my YouTube, my Facebook, my Instagram, all there on my website, psychsensei.com. But more importantly, the consultation form, fill that out. Will this session be uploaded to YouTube? Loved hearing about it. I really want to re-review it, but I'm not working at the same time as now. Yeah, I'm also streaming on YouTube, so it should be there. But I definitely will get it there, or some form of content about today's one. I enjoyed it. But yeah, it will be there. All right, friends. Well, thank you so much for coming. Rip it, baby. Welcome back to the stream. And also, Bonbon, I saw you for a little bit and you ran away, but thanks for coming by and talking stories. Bet, thank you for the review. Was great. Thank you for coming. You made it even better, honestly. So if you want to come back, I'll be here again. Let me check my schedule. I think I said I was going to do Friday. Double. Yes, Friday. Again, 6 p.m. PST. I'll be here reading another article. Maybe I'll put together something else. I don't know. But 6 p.m. PST, Friday. All right, friends. Take it easy. Be safe. Be warm. Love ya. Mwah! And remember, stronger winter wins. Pieces. Bye!